Morning, everyone. Glad you could join us this morning. I'm Tom Cook, one of the anchors here at Channel 13 in Houston, the ABC affiliate here in Houston, Texas, and proud to serve as your Master of Ceremonies this morning for this wonderful event. A dedication and an acceptance of artworks as gifts to the city of Houston today. The artworks honor two of the world's greatest space pioneers. The first to orbit the Earth, the Russian cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin, who made his trip around the Earth on April 12, 1961, 51 years ago. And then the American astronaut John H. Glenn, who on February 20th, 1962 made his way around the Earth. And their courageous missions inspired so many future missions into space. And we at Channel 13 here in Houston have covered every one of them. In fact, I've been privileged to cover 2 space shuttle launches and traveled to Russia and Baikonur last year for the launch of the Soyuz mission that took astronaut Scott Kelly and the cosmonauts. It was really an incredible trip and an incredible event to witness the cooperation of the Americans and the Russians as we made our way into space today. And as most of you know, our only way to space right now is aboard the Russian Soyuz rockets. So we are reliant on the Russians, and we're thankful to them for that. And we have a number of dignitaries that we'd like to honor today, and if they would please stand and let me recognize them. First of all, behind me today, the Honorable Anise Parker, Mayor of the City of Houston. Mayor Parker. We're also privileged to have Mr. Alexander Darchev. He is the Director of the North American Division of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for the Russian Federation. Mr. Darchev. And he's come back to Houston, the Honorable Charles F. Bolden, Jr., the Administrator of NASA. Charlie. And in our audience today, we have a number of dignitaries, so please stand and let me recognize you today. First of all, the Honorable Alma Allen, Texas State Representative. Alma. The Honorable Sarah Davis, also a Texas State Representative. Sarah, thank you for joining us today. The Honorable Helena Brown, she is a Houston City Council member. Helena. The Honorable Alexander Zakharov, the Consul General of Russia. And if the Honorable Consuls General from Angola, Chile, Saudi Arabia, and Switzerland would please stand, thank you very much for joining us today. Also, Mr. Michael Coates, the Director of the Johnson Space Center, former astronaut Mike. And Ms. Brittany Seabury, District Director of the Office of Representative John Culberson. Congressman Culberson's office is here. She's back there. Thank you, Brittany, for joining us. To celebrate our cooperative efforts today, we begin this program with the national anthem of the Russian Federation, sung by Ekaterina Gorlova, who attends the High School for Performing and Visual Arts, and she's a soloist with the Houston Opera Children's Chorus. Please remain standing, and then we will have the national anthem of the United States, sung by David Rurda from Lamar Consolidated. He is also a student of Houston Grand Opera High School Voice Studio. The national anthems of the Russian Federation in the United States.
Россия священная наша держава, Россия любимая наша страна, могучая воля, великая слава, твое достояние на все времена. Славься, Отечество наше свободное, братских народов союз вековой, предками данная, мудрость народная. Славься, страна, мы гордимся тобой.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
You know, leadership starts at the top, and you have to have leaders that recognize the importance of things like this to go forward with these kinds of things. And a big supporter of today's artwork has been our mayor of the city of Houston. As a global leader, she has recognized the importance of partnerships and the coming together of nations to celebrate achievements of all kinds. So it is my distinct pleasure now to welcome here Anise Parker, the mayor of the great city of Houston.
On behalf of the entire city, I welcome everyone here this morning on this really lovely fall day in Houston. But I especially welcome our many foreign guests who have traveled miles and miles to be with us today. We are celebrating a number of things today. We are clearly celebrating the life and legacy of two pioneering and brave space explorers. We're also celebrating the more than 50 years of space exploration that followed their work. We're celebrating the new relationship between the United States and Russia. And we're celebrating the strong international ties between the city of Houston and the Russian community of Houston. When I was first approached about the gift of a statue of Yuri Gagarin for the city of Houston, I was excited. But it also posed a dilemma, because we had to find the right place for that statue. We have a number of artworks in the city's collection, and in fact we have a very nice sculpture garden in Herman Park, where gifts like this have been placed in the past. But because of the significance of Cosmonaut Gagarin's feat, and because of a desire to not just place this gift where it might be lost among other works of art, I wanted the right place. And I will take complete credit or blame for placing this statue here. Too many Houstonians have lost the history of what has happened over the years in Houston. We are a city that always looks forward, that looks to the new. But we are also a city with a deep and rich history in many areas, and most especially in human spaceflight. The city of Houston knows this building as the headquarters of the Houston Parks Department, and historians may know it as the Grag building, but real historians and those who are passionate about the history of the space program in Houston know this building as the first headquarters for human spaceflight. Our manned space program started out in this building. The previous mayor of Houston launched a restoration of this building because we wanted to make sure that we saved it for future use, that we upgraded it, that we made it more functional. But more importantly, we wanted to make sure that this important piece of our history was preserved for the future. And if you step inside the building, you will see some photographs of the building from the outside as it originally was. You'll also see, if you get the full tour of the building, some more recent history. Mike, I have in there a framed banner from the last shuttle flight, signed by all 4 of the astronauts. I coveted it for my office, but I finally decided that it belonged here with our other artifacts and gifts of the space program. So we had the perfect context for the piece. We had the opportunity to accept this gift on behalf of all the citizens. But as we discussed it, and as space, the fact that it would have been inconceivable at the time that these men went into space that we would be American astronauts going to the International Space Station on a Russian rocket, that it was important to provide a little more context to what will be displayed here. And so, in a perhaps not so polite response, we said, no, we love the sculpture, and we are excited, and we have the perfect place for it, because you help us out a little more, because we want to do a little more around it. And therefore, the companion piece came for John Glenn. It makes, in our view, and so graciously from the Russian donors, it makes the context more relevant, and the distance that we have come, literally and figuratively, more evident. We would not be here today without the generosity of many people who understood instantly how gracious this gift was, but how meaningful it was to both our communities. The fact that we are able to share this day with the family of Cosmonaut Gagarin is especially important to us. And the fact that after this day, we will be able to bring school children here. We will be able to bring people who are passionate about the space program here. We will be able to gather here in a space that is used for celebrations and play and say, these men led the way into space, and we are waiting to follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. This dedication today in this program took a lot of work from a lot of people, but one man who's been extremely helpful in putting this together is the Consul General of Russia. And if I could have Alexander Zakharov stand once again. Thank you, sir. We appreciate your efforts in helping bring this to the city of Houston. You're a man who resided in this country for a long time, but is now back in Moscow, still with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He is the director of the Department of North America for the Russian Federation Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Would you please welcome Alexander Darchev. Mr. Darchev?
Honorable Mrs. Mayor, Honorable Mr. Bolden, dear colleagues and friends, it's a great honor for me to join you for the ceremonial inauguration of the monument to outstanding Russian citizen Yuri Alexeyevich Gagarin, who was the first human to travel into space. We are also paying tribute to the famed US astronaut John Glenn. I'm particularly happy to welcome amongst us Yuri Gagarin's daughter Galina and her son, grandchild of the great trailblazer who also has the name of Yuri. Our countries were pioneers in space research. It was almost 40 years ago that Soviet cosmonauts and American astronauts shook hands in orbit as part of Soyuz Apollo test project. I was only 15 years ago then, but I vividly remember the remarkable day. Despite the Cold War and differences between our countries, Russia and the United States joined efforts in space which belongs to all mankind. My childhood memories may not sound politically correct in the beginning of the 21st century, but what stuck in my mind in 1975 were Soyuz Apollo cigarettes launched on the occasion of the historic docking, also a joint venture between the tobacco companies of our countries. I'm glad that my 9-year-old daughter is in Moscow now and she does not hear these words. But she surely does know about such present-day advanced space cooperation project as the International Space Station. Luckily, there are no cigarettes named after it. All of us have been enchanted with the romance of conquering the skies since childhood days. Russians and Americans were first to fly high and became world legends irrespective of national and state borders. Among them were the Wright brothers, Charles Lindbergh, Amelia Earhart, and Valery Chkalov, who made the first transpolo flight from Moscow to Vancouver in the United States. This year we celebrate the 75th anniversary of this remarkable journey. With this first space flight on April 12, 1961, Yuri Gagarin ushered in a new era of manned space exploration. Then, just 10 months later, John Glenn went into orbit and circled our planet 3 times in a tiny capsule. Just imagine what Yuri Gagarin meant for the people of his time. A handsome young man with a charming, friendly smile immediately became an image and a hero not only for our country, but for the entire new space age. With his goodwill visits across the globe, he did more to bridge the gap between nations than anyone else at that time. It's highly symbolic that the idea of putting up the monument came from Kaluga region, which is the cradle of Russia's space program and the place where outstanding scholar and inventor Konstantin Tsiolkovsky lived and worked. The Dialogue of Cultures United World International Foundation carried out the project under the patronage of the administration of the Kaluga region. The initiative was also supported by the government of Moscow, which has a cooperation agreement with the city of Houston. We have brought with us messages of greetings from Governor of Kaluga region Anatoly Artemonov and Mayor of Moscow Sergei Sobyanin. Even a half a century later, being a cosmonaut or an astronaut is not only an extremely challenging, but a truly heroic task. Through space flights has now become almost routine. Professionals do know that every new start towards the stars is, without exaggeration, a remarkable feat. The monument inaugurated today will stand as a token of cooperation between our countries in exploring space for the benefit of all people, with the prospect of deeper discoveries of the universe and even going beyond the limits of a solar system. Yuri Gagarin won the hearts of millions of people, arousing a lifelong space fever in them. Throughout his life, he adhered to the principle formulated by another great Russian aviator, Valery Chkalov. To be means to be the first. The cause of Gagarin and Glenn has been carried forward by several generations of space conquerors. One day, flights from Earth to Mars or Venus may become just as routine as a first-class frequent flyer miles flight from Moscow to Houston. But even then, we must remember the pioneers who laid this path. I believe that this monument will stand as a worthy contribution to preserving our common heritage, as a symbol of continuity in manned space flights, as a bridge between the past, present, and future. This time, Houston, we have no problem, we have a solution. As Gagarin said, starting into space, let's go. Поехали. Thank you.